What does it mean that law is given on tablets of stone? The image is severe for a reason. Stone suggests permanence, weight, limit, and memory. Moses descending with the tablets is one of the strongest legal symbols in human history because it presents law as a standard placed above impulse. It shows command entering a world that cannot govern itself by desire alone. The tablets say that human conduct must answer to something higher than appetite, fear, convenience, and crowd emotion. This is where law connects to the ancient idea that man is fallen. Philosophically, the fallen condition means the human being is divided. He can recognize the good and still choose against it. He can speak of justice while acting from self interest. He can know truth and still bargain with desire. Law enters because human nature is capable of order, but not automatically ordered. If the human being were already whole, command would be unnecessary. The existence of law reveals the fracture. It shows that man requires boundary, instruction, correction, and consequence because the inner life is still unstable. The commandment, thou shalt not, is more than prohibition, it is diagnosis. It identifies the forces that can break the soul and destroy a community: violence, theft, false witness, betrayal, corrupted worship, dishonor, and covetousness. Law names the disorder before it becomes collapse. It gives language to the impulse before the impulse becomes action. That is the philosophical force of the tablets. They turn invisible moral order into visible form. They stand outside the individual, which means they can confront the individual. Written law has memory. It remains when emotion changes. It speaks when the crowd forgets. It gives a society a standard beyond charisma, force, and personal will. The scene beneath the mountain sharpens the point. While Moses receives law above, the people below turn toward the golden calf. That is not just a story about idolatry. It is a study of the human condition under pressure. When the invisible feels distant, man often manufactures something visible to control. The golden calf is desire becoming religion. It is certainty built from possession. It is the lower nature demanding a God it can touch, shape, and manage. The tablets descend into that disorder as interruption. They expose the difference between sacred order and human projection. They show that law does not merely regulate behavior, it confronts the false gods people create out of fear and craving. This is why the law given through Moses moves through the whole structure of human life. It addresses worship, family, life, property, speech, and desire. That order matters. It begins with the sacred, because what a person worships determines what governs him. It moves into family because honor begins with the closest obligations. It protects life because the human being cannot be treated as disposable. It protects property because desire cannot be allowed to erase another person's labor. It protects truth because justice dies when speech becomes corrupt. It reaches even into coveting because disorder begins before the outward act. The law understands that action is the last stage of an inner movement. Before theft, there is appetite. Before false witness, there is corruption of speech. Before violence, there is disorder in the will. Sacred law reaches into the roots. But the tablets also reveal the limit of external law. Stone can command, restrain, and witness, but it cannot by itself transform the heart. A person can obey outwardly while remaining inwardly disordered. A society can preserve commandments while losing the living purpose behind them. That is why the outer law points toward inner law. The command written on stone must eventually become conscience within the person. Otherwise, law remains outside the soul, always pressing from the exterior against impulses that have not been disciplined from within. The fallen human being needs law because he is divided, but the purpose of law is formation, not mere punishment. Law educates desire. It disciplines action. It protects truth. It teaches the soul to live under order instead of impulse. Moses and the tablets endure as a symbol because the image captures the entire drama of civilization, a higher standard descending into human disorder, stone confronting appetite, command interrupting chaos, and truth giving shape to a people. The fallen condition explains why law is necessary. The possibility of restoration explains why law matters. Sacred law is the bridge between what man is and what man is called to become. And this is where the scene moves beyond the tablets themselves. Law can be received externally while the person remains internally divided. A command can define the boundary, but it does not automatically transform the will. It can restrain conduct, but it does not by itself reorder desire. This is the deeper problem, contained in the idea of fallen man. The human being is not only capable of violating law, he is capable of knowing the law and still remaining inwardly loyal to what the law forbids. That is why sacred law cannot be understood only as rule, punishment, or social control. It is also an anthropology. It makes a claim about the structure of the human being. Man is rational, but not purely rational. Moral, but not consistently moral. Capable of truth, but vulnerable to self-deception. Able to recognize order, but often drawn toward disorder when desire, fear, or pride becomes dominant. The tablets address that condition by placing a fixed standard before an unstable will. But the existence of a standard creates another question. Is the purpose of law only to prevent certain acts, or to form a different kind of person? This is where the philosophy deepens. External law can govern behavior, but the inner life remains the source from which behavior emerges. Theft begins before theft. False witness begins before speech. Violence begins before the act. Coveting matters because it shows that disorder is not only external. The visible act is often the final expression of an inward arrangement. Sacred law therefore reaches further than civil order. It is concerned with the relation between desire, perception, will, and action. It asks what governs the person before the person acts. In this sense, the commandments are not merely prohibitions. They are a map of human vulnerability. They identify the points where the individual and the community break down. Worship, authority, family, life, property, truth, fidelity, and desire. Each command marks a place where disorder can become social consequence. The philosophical issue is not whether human beings are worthless or corrupt by nature. The issue is that human beings are mixed. They carry conscience and impulse, reason and appetite, aspiration and contradiction. Law appears because the human being contains this tension. It gives external form to the order the person has not fully internalized. But if law remains only external, it produces a limited result. It can create compliance, but not necessarily understanding. It can produce restraint, but not necessarily integration. It can tell a person where the line is, but it cannot guarantee that the person sees why the line matters. This is the transition from law as command to law as conscience. Conscience is not the rejection of written law. It is the interiorization of its principle. It is the point at which the person no longer asks only what is permitted, but what kind of order is being served by the act. That question changes the entire meaning of law. It moves the person from technical obedience toward moral formation. Something may be possible, advantageous, or defensible, yet still reveal disorder in the one choosing it. Sacred law is concerned with that deeper level because its purpose is not only to regulate the surface of conduct, but to expose the structure beneath conduct. This is why Moses and the tablets remain philosophically powerful. The image contains the whole sequence: a higher standard, a divided people, a visible law, and the demand that human life be brought under order. The mountain gives height to the standard. The stone gives permanence to the command. The people below show the instability of desire. The golden calf shows the tendency to turn fear and need into an object of worship. None of this requires exaggeration. It is a precise image of the human condition. When the invisible order feels absent, human beings often build a visible substitute. They seek certainty in what can be controlled. Sacred law interrupts that movement by insisting that truth is not created by need. Order is not created by collective emotion. The sacred is not whatever desire can manufacture. This is the philosophical force of the scene. Law descends because the human being must be addressed by something higher than his own immediate condition. Yet the final aim of that law is not permanent dependence on external pressure. The deeper aim is formation, the shaping of a person who can recognize order inwardly. The law begins as boundary becomes discipline and matures as conscience. The fallen condition explains why law is necessary. Conscience explains what law is trying to produce. Sacred law stands between the two. It names the disorder, establishes the boundary, and points toward the possibility that the human being can become ordered from within. And then Moses comes down the mountain. That is where the symbol reaches its full force. The law does not remain in the height, hidden in cloud, thunder, and distance. It descends. The higher standard enters the lower world. The invisible order becomes visible command. The abstract becomes concrete. The divine becomes legible. This is the allegorical significance of the descent. Truth must eventually leave the mountain and confront the condition of the people. A law that remains above history may be pure, but it has not yet met the disorder it is meant to address. Moses carries the tablets downward because law is not only contemplation, it is application. It has to enter the camp, the crowd, the fear, the confusion, the impatience, the image-making, the human tendency to replace what is difficult with what is manageable. The mountain represents height, revelation, distance, and order. The camp represents appetite, anxiety, immediacy, and collective instability. The descent is the meeting point between them. It shows the central problem of civilization. How does a higher principle survive contact with human disorder? That is why the moment is so powerful. Moses does not return to a people calmly waiting in full understanding. He returns to a people who have already begun translating absence into idolatry. The golden calf stands as the visible substitute for the invisible law. It is control, replacing trust. Image replacing truth. Object replacing order. In that scene, the tablets and the calf become two opposing philosophies. The tablets represent a standard received from above the self. The calf represents a standard manufactured from within the crowd's own need. One descends to govern desire. The other rises from desire and calls itself sacred. That is the allegory. Human beings either receive order or invent idols. They either submit desire to truth or reshape truth around desire. Moses coming down the mountain is therefore not only a religious moment, it is the image of law entering history and immediately being tested by the condition it was sent to correct. Sacred law becomes real only when it meets resistance. It is easy to honor order in the abstract. The true test comes when order confronts fear, appetite, pressure, and the demand for visible certainty. The descent from Sinai is the descent of principle into consequence. It is the point where philosophy becomes obligation. It shows that revelation is incomplete until it becomes responsibility. The mountain gives the law its authority, but the camp gives the law its necessity. Without the mountain, the people have no higher standard. Without the camp, the law has no human field in which to operate. Together they reveal the whole structure. Man reaches upward for order. Order descends downward as law, and the space between them becomes the arena of moral life. That is where the final meaning sits. Moses descends because truth cannot remain distant if it is to shape civilization. Law must come down from abstraction into conduct, from stone into society, from command into conscience. The tablets begin as objects in his hands, but their deeper purpose is to become an order within the people. The allegory is clear. The highest law is not complete when it is revealed. It is complete when it is internalized. Moses coming down the mountain is the beginning of that difficult movement. The movement from sacred height to human practice. from external command to inward formation, from a people governed by fear to a people capable of order. That is why the scene endures. It captures the permanent drama of law itself, a higher standard descending into a fallen world, not to flatter it, not to condemn it as hopeless, but to give it form, boundary, memory, and the possibility of becoming more than its impulses. Here's the lesson. Moses coming down the mountain is not only a story about a man receiving commandments, it is the picture of consciousness receiving law from a higher level and bringing it into the lower nature. The mountain is the higher mind. The camp is the lower nature. The tablets are fixed truth. The golden calf is desire made visible. That is the whole human condition in one scene. The higher part of man can perceive order, but the lower part wants something it can touch, control, and worship immediately. The people do not wait because the lower nature does not like distance, silence, uncertainty, or discipline. It wants a form. It wants an object. It wants gratification now. So while Moses is above, receiving law, the crowd below creates a substitute. That is the allegory. When the higher mind is absent, the lower nature builds idols. And the idol does not have to be a golden calf. It can be power. It can be money. It can be status. It can be ideology. It can be pleasure. It can be fear. It can be the self-image. It can be anything the lower nature treats as ultimate because it cannot tolerate the invisible discipline of truth. This is why the tablets matter. They are stone because truth is not supposed to bend every time desire becomes uncomfortable. They are written because the human being forgets. They are carried downward because truth that remains abstract has not yet transformed the life. The law must descend into conduct, speech, appetite, family, power, property, worship, and desire. That is the point. Sacred law is not merely something given to humanity. It is something that exposes humanity. It reveals that man is divided between what he knows and what he obeys. He can know the good and still choose the lesser thing. He can receive law and still build the calf. He can hear truth and still serve appetite. That is fallen man in philosophical form, not worthless, not hopeless, but divided. The law comes because division requires order. But the final lesson is even sharper. The tablets are not the end, they are the beginning. External law restrains the act, but inner law transforms the actor. A command can say, "Do not steal," but conscience must uproot the hunger that wants what is not rightly yours. A command can say, "Do not bear false witness," but conscience must form a person who loves truth more than advantage. A command can say, "Do not covet," but conscience must discipline the attention before desire becomes action. That is the movement from stone to soul. The law first appears outside the person because the person is not yet ordered within. But the aim is not permanent dependence on an external rule. The aim is a human being whose inner life has become structured by truth. That is sacred law, not just command. Formation, not just punishment. Alignment, not just obedience. Transformation. Moses descends because the higher must enter the lower. The law descends because truth must confront appetite. The tablets confront the calf because order must expose the idol. And every human being lives that same scene internally. Every day, the higher part of you comes down with a truth, and the lower part of you is already building something to avoid it. That is the test. Not whether you admire the law, not whether you can quote it, not whether you can decorate it with religious language. The test is whether truth becomes government inside you. If the law stays on stone, it can accuse you. If it enters the heart, it can form you. And that is the final meaning of Moses, the mountain, the tablets, and fallen man. The human being is not restored by having sacred law near him. He is restored when sacred law becomes the order within him. And if you stayed for it all, I hope you learned a thing or two. Humanfluence, out.